for income tax laws, in agriculture, investments, foreign source losses, and speculative transactions as per FA 2017. Information related to income and tax liability for final withholding as per Income Tax Act. Also, information relating to income and tax liability of domestic permanent establishment that has been repatriated income for a year of income as per that section of Income Tax Act. Also, there was no distinction regarding taxability of corporation with perpetual and relieved loss for consecutive 3 years of income as provided for under income tax laws. There was no information of depreciable asset as per section 17 of ICTA, which respective computation of depreciation allowance as per the 3rd schedule to the Income Tax Act. There was no details of related party transaction as per transfer, pricing regulations. Return form of employment taxes did not take into account the residual status and category of employment of an employee. So currently also there's a VAT system that a taxpayer can file their return online, but it's really of uploading the documentation that are required and submitting a summarized form of a VAT return. So the challenge that we are being faced right now is burdensome. It involves use of IFIN, password intact form, and correct details date format, no adjustments. Taxpayer cannot amend an already submitted return. The system does not allow the apportionment of partial input tax credit. The current system involves lengthy VAT refund processing due to absence of VAT account. The current system has no reports in respect of VAT returns. So currently we are ongoing with our process of improving the new system, which the key areas are improvement in tax return forms and also improvements in filing process. Key improvements in tax return forms include taxpayer can now file based on their nature of business, that is general business, insurance, banking, mining and petroleum operations, partnership. Also, taxpayer can file revised tax return and pay tax due at any time from his business office without visiting TRA office. Taxpayer can receive tax assessment instantly after filing the tax return. Taxpayer can pay at any time the tax that is payable for the tax assessed after filing tax return. Taxpayer can apply for remission of interest or penalty waiver and extension of time to file tax returns and receive approval or rejection of the application without visiting TRA office. They identify key improvements in the filing process. The new system enables the taxpayer to receive notification and documentation and documents, adjusted assessments, acknowledgement letters regarding his tax liability of any activities being conducted regarding his tax affairs. The system enables taxpayers to update contact information, email, and phone numbers whenever need arises. The system shows the due date for filing tax returns and time left or accrued after the due date of filing tax returns. The system enables to charges penalty automatically for late filing of tax returns. Also, the use of Excel template that taxpayer can download, fill, and then upload in the e-filing system. System enables adjustment for adjusting events. The system allows taxpayer to amend VAT returns as per the VAT Act. System enables apportionment of partial input tax credit. The enhancement of the system to incorporate VAT account will enable fast VAT refund processing, reports for management decision. So list of unfiled returns are shown, and this is the from back office, and the returns can be shown with specific dates, as it can be seen. Also, different system services that can be offered: print certificates, due date management, SDL tax return management, pay as you earn tax rate management, personal income tax rate management, corporate tax rate management. And the prospects of the authority, integration of them to single window to facilitate electronic filing and online applications so that taxpayers can receive various services electronically. The authority is also in the process of enhancing other systems to facilitate data integrity and enable pre-filing of tax returns. Integration with other authorities so as to enable consolidation of data required for filing of tax returns. Of course, recommendation to other tax administrations. Wide use of internal human resources to develop systems, provide wide room for enhancement, build staff in capacity of system development, integration with other government agencies, central government payment systems, National Board of Accountants and Auditors, Insurance Agency and Company Registration Body, automation of key tax administration functions such as registration, filing, payments, importation, and banking systems, effective team building for development of various systems. Of course, the area that, as we have seen the presentation done by Vegard, which that report covers the major areas that we think from our side can really help tax administrators like TRI to improve in its processes and to ensure the key areas for digitalization are taken into consideration during the development of the system. And also, of course, when you are talking of using internal resources to do the development, there's a need of continuously building the capacity. Also, capacity of ICT, both ICT also on the business side, also collaborate for exchange programs related to system development, of course, and a wider understanding of different techniques, methodology that can be used to effectively develop the systems. Of course, the key challenges that we have seen so far: process of good transition planning and effective implementation, education and sensitization to the public, resources, both time and funding, also extending support to both internal and external stakeholders in effective adoption of the system for their day-to-day function. Otherwise, I'm ready to receive further clarification, and I would like to thank you, Mary.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel and Vega. I'd like to request that you please switch on your cameras again so that we can start the conversation. And I want to really thank everybody who has joined and who continues to join. I hope you are able to follow both presentations. The last presentation by Emmanuel was about a homegrown solution that they developed as TRA to try and improve their e-filing. And it is extremely impressive because I just picked a few things. Some of the two areas that he indicated was that in the former system, they had a challenge of the taxpayers being able to apportion input tax in the area of VAT, and that even they had a difficulty in amending tax files that had already been filed with Tanzania Revenue Authority. And from what Emmanuel shared with us, that has been changed to the extent that taxpayers are now able to amend their returns, and they are also able to include their inputs. So those are some of the highlights, but as you could tell, there were quite a number of areas. He also did talk about the challenges and areas where he thinks that we can support. We've taken note of those, and we would now like to open the floor to the for the Q&A. And there was a question that was already posted. I see Vigath has already answered that, But Vega, do you want to speak to it? So for those who did not note the question, if you can please take a few minutes to talk about it, and then I'll pose the next questions that I see in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. And I want to start by saying that it was quite a challenging question and interesting, absolutely worthwhile to think about in the context of organizational silos and management based on Taylorism. How can we promote innovation and personal initiative in tax administrations? And there were a few points that I tried to focus on in my answer, although I think that people that work on capacity building full-time would probably be much better to answer it, because I'm more of a generalist in this area. But I said it maybe too many times during my presentation, and I need to say it again, that top management buy-in, top management enthusiasm for the process is the absolute crucial success factor. And this can be leading by example. It can be the fact that the commissioner shows willingness to learn the new system alongside with the rest of the administration. And it can also be showing by example, by, should we say, by practical actions that initiative and ideas are appreciated. For instance, by arranging idea contests within the administration where the best ideas are somehow rewarded, either by being published and the person being recognized, or some other kind of recognition depending on what opportunities are available. But this, my goodness, I think this is one of the areas where you really need to look at the particular country and tax administration and the complex in order to give a proper answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Vega. And Emmanuel, the question that Vega just responded to, might you have a few inputs regarding that? The question was about how to ensure that the leadership has basically buy-in into these systems. How did you do it in Tanzania?
Thank you, Mary, for the question. In Tanzania, actually, in general, there is a need, or there is enthusiasm already of digitalization. So from the top, actually, it's from the central government itself. The move has been all the government institutions to use digital forms of operation, so that to enable online payments and other processing to be done easily and effectively. But I think the challenge from there would be now, I think, is the silos within the organization. And that means, for example, if you have different departments, different units within the organization, to come out with a continuous or end-to-end business process reengineering, whereby the process can be interlinked and work together, so that the users and the taxpayers and other stakeholders, when they use the systems, they can seamlessly do the submission or the processing of different business processes without seeing the difference. And that we have a challenge in TRI. Even within the same department, in some cases, you'll find a VAT filing module is different from VAT refund, and they have different processes. So you have to go back and do some analysis to see how can you complement this kind of processes to work together. So because the business themselves, they normally functions in units and departments. But the processes, the digitalization does not recognize those kind of units and separation. So coming on the IT side, we have to bring them all together and tell them the how effective can be done when those processes are seen as one. So we are still working on the part of the BPR. We are not yet there, but we have seen, like, currently we are taking only the requirements from the units or from the business divisions, and from IT side try to optimize and to bring them together to bring that streamlining that process, so that the sharing and the build up of the systems recognize those remove those kind of silos that are normally brought out because of the business separation within their functionalities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel and Vegal, for the responses. For Vegal, top management buy-in, and for Emmanuel, an inclusive approach that eliminates silos. I want to say once again to our audience that if you have any questions, you are free to either raise your hand or even to type it in the Q&A. There is a question for you, Vega, and the question reads, please explain the process followed in putting together this report. What was the rationale of the regional input? I guess you had already spoken about how it was put together, but it would be useful for you to talk about the rationale for the regional input. Back to you, Vega, in the next 3 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mary. I'll quickly go through the process because much of it I have not mentioned. But the most important activity we did was probably to reach out to tax administrations through the networks in the OECD, through ATAF, etc., and ask for input, ask for interviews. We've had a very interesting and very good input from Tanzania, by the way, which is reflected in the report. Thank you very much to GRA for that. And then we've arranged workshops where we invited speakers from organizations, administrations that elaborated on topics of interest. And we've had a group of advisory or drafting group members composed of people from all over the world, developing and developed countries, to advise us on adjusting the report to make it fit better to the purpose. So it's been quite a long process, but also very rewarding and very interesting. I have learned so much you would not believe it. On the regional input, regional tax organizations can provide insight into the specific challenges of a region, and they can give advice that takes into account specific local requirements. And also the regional bodies that we asked to contribute all offer assistance to their members. And we wanted to ensure that these offers of assistance were reflected in the report. Consequently, we've had ATAF ADB on behalf of Asia, the Asian Development Bank, the CIAT for the the Latin America and Caribbean region, and IOTA for the European region, actually write their viewpoints and include them in the report so that we have kind of first-hand responses or first-hand input from these organizations on the specific regional characteristics that could be useful for administrations. Thank you.
Thank you so much indeed. And thank you for explaining the process. And I mean, the more you explain it and the more the details you give, then the more clearer, we are that this report is really one that revenue administrations must look out for, and any other people in the tax field, because clearly it's going to help revenue administrations in terms of digitizing what their operations and the benefits that can be gained from this. I want to go back to you now, Emmanuel. Again, a question for you that has been posted is, Emmanuel, what are some of the areas you recommend to other tax administrations embarking on digitization to prioritize? The next 3 minutes, please. Emmanuel, you're muted.
Thank you, Mary. I think the key areas to to look at. I think the report that has been presented by Vegard has clearly mentioned, but I'll say some few. The business process reengineering is important. That will encompass the overall organization. Actually, right now with digital economy coming, I'm very thankful for the report. Probably it may start guiding us how to embark on the new digital economy. And I can see as a country, we have to see how can we bring together all processes together so that they can complement each other within TRI and other involved stakeholders.
Emmanuel, can I please interrupt you a bit and ask you to come closer to your microphone? You're kind of faint.
Hello, can you hear better now?
Yes, I can hear better, and I hope everybody else can hear you better. Thank you.
So sorry for that. So, of course, vision from the top. You need support from the top. I think as TRI and the government, we have that. Others call political will. We have that a lot. Of course, the issue of resources, the right resources, being on the business side and also on the ICT side, specifically when a need for internal grown solutions. Eventually, even if you have to bring in from other sources, eventually we have to own it and make sure it works within our environment. So everybody has to be involved. Inclusion of stakeholders. We always talk of internal, but we also have to consider the external as well, because eventually for the digitalization, most part of the system also will be used by external users. And we would like them to use it effectively to make sure they use it for their benefit and for the benefit of the institution. Of course, on the part of is proper methodology during the development, meaning it's either you use agile methodology or you use waterfall. For example, in our case, we are using agile, but it has some challenges with it because you always have to go back to the user and you expect the user also to be consistent. In some cases, they are not. So you have to do a lot of redevelopment. So those are the kind of challenges that we are currently facing. Of course, the challenge of deploying the system, either you do a big bang or you do modular. We do modular, but the challenge of that is, well, on one side you're development, on the other side you're fixing bugs, and the other side you're supporting the users. So we have to also look on those kind of key areas that to help on the effective development of the system and eventually deployment to the use. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you so much. Emmanuel, while I have you, how long did it take you to develop this system? I'm particularly interested in where you talked about the consistency of user development and support. How long did it take you to get everybody involved on board?
Oh, the whole exercise actually is we are in 3 years down the line. We've been doing this for 3 years, and we went live 2019, and we have been improving the system since then. We have achieved kind of a lot, but still there's a lot of things to do. Mm-hmm. The issue of consistency of requirement is key because normally they keep changing every time, so it's rather challenging. We have to look at very carefully how to manage that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much indeed. And there's a last question for you, Vega. And the question is, what are the characteristics shaping tax administration digitalization in your report? And possibly if you could mention particular challenges, both for both small and large administrations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. That is a very interesting question. And of course, challenging to answer because it asks for generalizations across different administrations. There are some trends, though, that we have seen. And one pattern that I believe has emerged from the numerous examples and interviews was that if we were to produce a description of digitalization maturity levels in tax administrations, including the extreme elements, both in terms of low maturity and high maturity, then what we have found is that most or maybe all administrations will have some examples of quite mature solutions. So the difference between administrations is rather at the other end of the scale, where an administration in a developing country may have some or many elements in their administration that is yet to be digitalized. Whereas in a typical developed country, it's more collected on the other end of the scale. So the range of maturity of digitalization tends to be greater in developing countries. That's what we've found. And of course, my hope and belief is that this report can be inspiration and motivation for administrations in developing countries to undertake the digitalization journeys that can close this internal gap. And to answer specifically on the challenges of very small and very large administrations, the pattern that seems to be forming is that very small administrations usually have correspondingly small or maybe even non-existent IT departments, which makes it quite challenging with any form of digitalization effort. I mean, the range of administrations that we have looked at go from a tax administration of approximately 35 people, with everyone included, to tax administrations with several 100,000 employees and all the in between. So the lack of IT internal, I think, can be quite challenging. And of course, this speaks back to the advice from Emmanuel. And Emmanuel, I 100% support you in the advice that systems should be internally supported and owned. You need in-house knowledge. But in some administrations, that's actually not possible. So even that advice cannot be completely generalized. And for the very large administration, it seems that the greatest challenge often is change management. To have the necessary changes to the processes reach into every part of the organization in sync with the changes to IT systems. If you are a large country, like Brazil or Indonesia, where the local offices are large and quite autonomous, then introducing a common system for all these offices requires introducing common processes, and that can be quite a challenge. So I think that is probably most prevalent in the largest administrations. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That's extremely interesting, especially the fact regarding the resources that different administrations deploy in the IT area. So I guess it's also a strategic decision that administrations need to take, that the more you invest in these areas, the more solutions you will have. I think basically that's the lesson that we can take from there. So as we conclude, what's your last message, Vigaf, to the audience? What would be your last message?
Well, I think I want to quote just a few words from part 1 of the report for this. Digitalization is transforming economies across the world already, and digitalization brings competitive advantages to a country as businesses and citizens communicate and transact their business more quickly and efficiently. Tax administrations are not immune to these changes, and every tax administration needs to consider how they can embrace the changes of digitalization and maximize the opportunities that these can bring. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Very clear, very concise. I'm sure everybody has heard your message. Emmanuel, your last message to the audience.
Thank you. The last message will be digitization is the way to go. We don't have option as the economy also is going digital. Everything will be taxed from the digital economy. So as tax administrators, we have to adopt it and lead the way. we should not be taken by surprise. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Voila, the universe has spoken. Digitalization is the way to go. And I think everybody on the call agrees with the gentleman. I want to thank you, Vaga, and I want to thank you, Emmanuel. Your inputs, your presentations were extremely interesting, and I'm sure that everybody has really taken home excitement as we wait for the report on supporting the digitalization of tax administration. And we also learned a lot from you, Emmanuel, and how Tanzania has done great. We are also so proud of you, and I'm sure that all colleagues can have learned a thing or two, and we all look forward to working together to overcome the challenges that you still have. To the audience, I want to thank you for your kind attention and for the questions that you posed. Over to you, Refire.
Thank you very much, Mary, and thank you very much to our esteemed speakers. Thank you very much to the audience for your participation and for your questions. We are now going to move on to session 9. Please note that it will start between 2:30 and 2:45. So from here, you're going to leave this room, and I urge you to please join the other rooms. We also have a breakout session in room 1 and room 3. So you are free to join those, please. And then from 2:30 and 2:45, that's when we begin session 9. And that's when we go back to the main room, which is the auditorium. So you'll go back into the lobby, click onto the auditorium and join session 9. Thank you very much for your attention and see you in a few minutes. Bye.